Take a breath, step outside.
Back, everybody. Tonight is our very first time coming back after a wonderful hiatus. In this time, we want to spend this next hour sharing and highlighting a number of the 135 Native American, Indigenous, and Two-Spirit and Deaf-Hard of Hearing presenters, artists, storytellers, and elders we have been so blessed and supported by through that amazing time of resilience and rising and thriving and purpose as arts and cultures carries us through those hard times. So this is just a recap of that, and then we're going to show you what we've been up to in the last 3 months during our hiatus and what we're doing moving forward. So our next presenter, or first presenter rather, is Albert Chase. He is a Diné man. He's a cultural consultant, and he's been doing this for more than 30 years. And he always goes back to his grandparents' teachings in the language Navajo, which he believes is a good time for us to utilize all these resources called cyberspace to teach the Navajo language online through Facebook and what have you. So this man is beautiful, and we love Albert, so we thought we'd kick it off with Albert. So without much ado, let's give it up for Albert.
The question that was asked to me is, who am I? And my grandparents had always told me, in this life, you try to be an extraordinary person to be, and use your gifts that are given to you. And these gifts that are given to you will be gifts to others when you share it. And so I strongly believe that when you have a gift, you pass it on. And that was a way of our people. It was the indigenous way, is to pass it on, not to hold back. In fact, through the years, we've held back and we're suffering for it today. And so I just want to encourage everyone. The indigenous way is a very peaceful way, a loving way, and how we connect with one another. So this is me as Mr. Albert Brent Chase.
All right. That is our brother, Albert Chase. We are very honored to know him, and he walks in the beauty way. We call that Hojo, H-O-Z-H-O, with a hyphen over the O. Our next speaker we're going to share a clip of is one of my favorite people on planet Earth, and that is Diane Reyna. She hails from Toas Okhay Owingeh Pueblos, so she is definitely a Pueblo descendant of these lands. And what Diane has done with her life is make the invisible camera lenses. On top of that, she's also an artist, and at the moment she's into iconography, and that is her new passion through the COVID pandemic. And here is my favorite human being on planet Earth, and there are many, but she's one, Diane Reyna.
I'm a note taker, so as I'm taking notes, because it's important for me to have recollect, and I got to have this information because the types of jobs I have, you got to be accurate. So I have to take notes. I've always taken notes. And then while I'm listening, I'm starting to want to listen, but I'm also kind of interpreting what I'm hearing through lines and marks. And so I don't know what any of these drawings, except the last one, even the last one, I didn't know what it was going to be. I just lay a line down. It's usually that flow, what I call a flow line, that reminds me of life, that's how we must live. And then I look at it, and then I decide where I'm going to put the next line, and then from those two lines I decide the the third line. It just builds. So I don't know what I've created until it's done, and then go back and see what possible interpretations that these things might mean to me. And so that's what I love about these pieces, because it's open to everybody's interpretation. I just put down what I was experiencing in my mind through my drawings, and so other people can see what they need to see in it too. And that's the beauty of art.
All right. That's a little clip that, again, you can view in our video archives, the full story with Diane Reyna as she counters the traditional writing narrative, art narrative of storytelling, which is there has to be a beginning, middle, and end before you get started. Well, after hearing Diane, that's not true. In the Indigenous way, you just take the pen to paper and see what story manifests from that. And that's very beautiful. And we have our beautiful interpreters here this evening, Chandra and Cress, that's C-R-E-S, so short for Crescenciano. And if you want to pin the interpreters, if you need the interpreters, pin them and it'll be a bigger screen for you to see. So our next clip is going to be from our sister. Her name is Ora Barlow-Tukaki. She's Maori. She's a sister of ours in music. She's also an amazing storyteller. I mean, this woman is fierce. When we went to New Zealand, she welcomed us into her Maori backlands and had a big festival and honored the Indigenous people for DAPL, Dakota Access Pipeline. And they did this beautiful opening Maori ceremony that they do called a haka, and that was really fierce. And while we were there, she fed us some eel that she went and caught herself. So uni, sorry about that. Uni, UNI. And so she's just beautiful. So here's a little clip of Ora. Again, she's in our library.
And the Rona worked hard, there was no doubt. And yet her plants were sad and sorry. The kumara, the sweet potato, was so small, and the potato were rotten. And the Rona could not figure that out. And far above the moon, it watched her and listened to her. One night, she went to get her water, and the path was dark, for the moon was hiding behind a cloud. And as she walked along the pathway that she had always walked 1,000 times before, Rona stubbed her toe on a root. Hopping up and down, she banged her shin into a rock. Yelping with pain, Rona fell down, plonking on her bottom. Rubbing her sore bits, she looked up at the dark sky and cursed the moon for hiding behind a cloud. She shook her fist. She pointed her finger. She said words that she had never said to a living human being before, and she bent down to pick up her hui of spilt water. But what Rona didn't know was that the moon had been watching her. What Rona didn't know was that the moon had heard her, cursing at the moon, yelling at the moon, saying what a terrible moon it was. As Rona began to bend down to recollect her water, still fuming about the lack of light from the moon started to pull at her. First, Rona's hair began to stand up on end. Then she felt a tug on her clothes. And finally, Rona's toes began to leave the ground. In horror, Rona felt herself beginning to float up into the world. In desperation, she grabbed the rock, but the rock only crumbled. Then she grabbed the bush, but that came away in her hand. And finally, she grabbed the branch of a tree. But alas, the very roots of the tree was pulled out from the earth, and Rona and the tree were pulled towards the moon.
Now, that is mesmerizing.
I want more.
That is poetic. Now, that is storytelling with prosody, with a beat. And this woman can sing like nobody's business. Well, with the exception of Elena, of course. So we got storytellers, historians, artists, musicians, comedians, all kinds of wonderful human beings to share with our video archives library, which is free and accessible to all of you. Our next presenter is one of my best friends. Her name is Arletta Toland, and I hope she's here tonight with us. Arletta is a Diné woman who is deaf. And Arletta is, her parents were traditional medicine people speaking only the Navajo language. So she grew up in culture on the land. And a little piece of the clip of her story is what it feels like for a unique experience that a lot of us don't know, coming from such a traditional background and being mainstreamed into a deaf blind school where everything's just so different. So we're going to share a little piece of this amazing woman who believes in Mother Earth and Father Sky and signs to the earth and signs to her dogs and cats, and she signs to the sky. She goes up and stays on the Chusca Mountains in a cabin all by herself and sees the bears and has no fear. I just love Arletta. Here's Arletta, everybody.
I was born in a log cabin. And at the age of 1, I became very ill. I had a very high fever. I almost died, actually. But that illness left me deaf. At the time, a Catholic priest helped my parents find a deaf school. And so at the age of 4, I left home and I was sent to a residential school for the deaf and blind. I cried a lot. I was incredibly homesick. One of the supervisors at the school, who was a Pima, Native American girl, comforted me and stayed with me. And of course, I felt better. So the two of us stayed together for a few weeks. It was there that I learned American Sign Language as I interacted with my other peers. And I remember going into one classroom and being provided a device that came with a set of headphones. On the main unit of the device, I could adjust the volume to make it lower or higher as needed. So the teacher would speak and point to different signs and different phonemes on the board, and I was supposed to follow along, hearing the sounds and pronouncing them, but I couldn't understand the words that were being said. And so after the lesson, my teacher and I would sit down in the classroom, and they would then try to help me learn how to pronounce certain words. Again, I'm wearing this device with the headphones. So my teacher would say, ball, ball, and I was supposed to repeat, ball, and I was supposed to practice, but again and again, I failed. They ended up moving me to another classroom later that didn't require that same level of speech.
Ooh. Yeah, that's Arletta's story. It's a very rich in culture story, and it also emphasizes where education has gone wrong for our people, for our deaf children, for our Indigenous children, for our people who come with this beautiful thing called communication through gesturing, communication through communicating with the earth, with the animals, with all this beauty, and then stripping it away and forcing the children not to speak Navajo, not to speak Spanish, not to speak Pueblo, not to speak ASL, but to learn the English word order, subject, verb, object, in linear form. That's pretty harsh for an ESL student because a child is rich in culture and that's taken away. But not really. There's a lot of bilingual and trilingual children that grow up to be amazing adults. More languages, the better. So our next guest is a clip from one of my favorite guys that I went to the MFA program with at IAIA, Wakaya Wells. He himself is Two-Spirit and Choctaw, and he's culturally an Indigenous man. And he's so beautiful because he's a writer, he's a storyteller, and he's an activist. He also works in education, and he works with students, and he's got an amazing story. So without much ado, let's give it up for Wakaya.
When I grew up, Oklahoma is in the Bible Belt. Obviously, I didn't grow up I grew up in a small town, and I didn't grow up in a place that had a lot of visible out queer people. So I didn't see any representatives of that identity and all of its nuance. And so it was hard, like I grew up, being called fag, and I didn't even know at the time that bisexual was a thing. It was like, you're gay or you're straight. And, people definitely felt like I was on the gay side of things. And so I couldn't come to terms with it because I was very involved in the church, and that being a good and bad experience, right? And so I didn't come out as bi until I was in college. And, I along the way in college, there were these experiences and people I'd be around that I think saw that part of me that I wasn't seeing in myself. And then it took, when I was a junior in school, I had like a mental breakdown basically, and came out as bi, and told my family. And at the time, I think they were more worried about like my mental health and my well-being than my sexuality. That was kind of like, okay, we'll like talk about that later. And then I think they came to terms with it more of like the bisexual identity of like, okay, so what does that mean? Are you attracted to men and women, or are you, is it a sexual thing? Is it like, how does romance come to be? And so I think I was lucky enough to be in a family that didn't disown me or didn't kick me out, which is, sadly still a reality for a lot of queer folks. And but then in my adult life, after I left college, I started realizing, okay, so I identify as queer, and I'm realizing that doesn't the gender thing. And so I started playing around with the gender queer identity, and I sort of kept myself away from the Two-Spirit identity because I thought, oh, that's a Pan-Indian thing. And I would gatekeep myself from identifying as Two-Spirit. But then, and really just the last year or so, I had a friend who was in the program with me at IA and shared with me, they said, I noticed you're using they, them pronouns now. I noticed you have changed, like what's going on? And I kind of shared with them about my journey with coming out as genderqueer. And I told them about people in my life who I noticed, like would wear skirts and jewelry and things. And I'd really resonate with me. And I realized, oh, it's because that's me. I'm like that too. And but I realized coming out as Two-Spirit that it's also a healing thing, being a healer. It's not just the masculine and feminine, which I think is a spectrum, but it's also, Two-Spirit people traditionally are healing people. And that's something that I come from my family being healers. And so I think that goes along with my writing as well.
Yes, Wakaya. Thank you, Wakaya. If you want to look at his story, he talks about being raised on a farm with a family of preachers, and his journey was to grow up to be a preacher, and he gave himself to it, gave himself to that. And the story goes on, and now he's who he is, and he's studying the 5-gendered culture, pre-colonization here in the States, where indigenous tribes honored all people. All people come with gifts. All people come with healing. All people can be conduits for us to heal in our own ways. So we love Wakaya's walk, and we'd love to have him back on our show. Our next guest is Narissa Bond. We also do music. We love to have concert series, and Narissa Bond is very, very talented, and she has won several awards. She studied jazz, blues. She's very well read. I mean, her mom's like a PhD doctor and raised her kids and has been very supportive of each of her kids in whatever way they've come out to be with their gifts as well. So we're going to go ahead and take a break from the speakers and let you listen to a song by Narissa Bond. Enjoy, Narissa, because I sure will.
All the people who are marginalized in the society, we are Americans too. And this song is all about that. And it's called I Live Here Too.
I am black, the color of the night, in a beautiful evening sky, where the stars sparkle like diamonds, high above high. In chains of despair I came here from a home in Africa. I toiled the fields till I was free, still I rose above, I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I am red, the color of sunrise, and the color of its clay. I was native to this land long before the white man came. They took away my land and they forced me to move on. I never did surrender, body and spirit still live strong. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I am gay, the color of rainbows against the gray of the rain. My colors shine beautiful, proud against my pain. As I watch the signs of hatred and I live in dangerous way, I did not give up my quest for justice, dream of a better day. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I am woman, the mother of the earth and the blue in the sky. I am mountains standing tall. I am rivers running wide. There are those that seek to break me. There are those who would do me harm. My power is too great, and I've weathered many storms. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I am every woman and man, those who dare to choose. If anyone is not free, everyone will lose. I have worked so hard, come this far, got a long way to go. In this place we call America, I call home. And I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I live in the land of the free. land of the free and the home of the brave. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too. I live here too.
Wow.
We live it too.
Love Narissa. I could listen to her over and over and over. But the nice thing about Narissa is she continues to write songs. She's very prolific, and she takes her guitar everywhere she goes. So we need to contact her. We really do. She's so beautiful. So we wanted to share a little bit of our elder, Don Coyhis. Don Coyhis comes from the Mohican Nation. He lives in Colorado. He's an elder, and IndigenousWays absolutely honors elders. And I'm sure you all know this. There's elders and there's old. The elders are the people that have something to give, the wisdom, the light, the history, the tradition, the culture, the language, because they're walking, living legends. And that's precisely who Don Coyhis is. So when we say elder, it is with the utmost respect to be called an elder. And you know, I have met children that are elders. My little niece, Najoni, she's an elder. She walks with wisdom, that woman. She's like 23 years old, man. She's an old soul. So there's young people that can have that great name too. So niece, you're an elder. And then you're young too, so that's good. So our next guest is Don Coyhis. He's got a very powerful message, and you can watch him full on our video archive library. Here's Don.
I know one time the elders, they told me that the past is connected to the present, is connected to the future. It's all interconnected. We are where we are now because of some decisions and choices was made in the past. And today, some choice and decisions we made today, that's how the future is going to be. But what I believe that the majority of the reasons we are why we are at is that we are living on the prayers of our ancestors. Those ones that when we were babies or maybe not even born yet, they knew what was coming down. You started to see what was happening, and they were doing the ceremonies, they were doing the prayers, and some of them had insight that they would go into the spiritual world and they would pray and they would get messages and they would ask the Creator to help the babies unborn. And then when they come back, how they talk to us, what happened there is we call them the prophecies. That while they were in that spiritual world, in those ceremonies, they were told certain things, certain signs you see that we were to watch for.
Wow, this man is priceless. We're so blessed to know Don Coyhis. He is the founder of the Wellbriety on the Red Road. Check it out, White Bison Inc. All right, moving onward, we are going to go back to the bridging of the other side of Mother Earth, and that's the Pacific Islander, PIs, what we call them, PIs, our sister Mesepa. Mesepa is, like Elena, Maori and Samoan, and she is also an amazing activist. She believes in Mother Earth, and she believes that everything made from Mother Earth, which is everything when you think about it, can be used again and again. It can be recycled. Through the pandemic, she made masks with Maori and Samoan designs. She sent them to us, so we actually have them here. So Mesepa is an artist, and as she believes in art, she also is the founder of Eco Creators. So let's enjoy Mesepa for just a couple of minutes, okay?
My life experience was having to go through a time and period of my life of losing life, losing children, giving birth, losing that child. I had 7 miscarriages. I gave birth to 5 children most of them, actually all of them, passed away except for my beautiful blessing, who is here about to give life to my very first mokopuna, my very first grandchild. That time in my life was the most darkest time of my life. And in it, when I was going through it, nothing else existed except the bottom of the pit, the bottom of the cliff. There was no way, it just felt so impossible to be able to get out of the cliff with no rope, no ladder, and look up and just see it was just way too far, too high to rise up and get to the top. That's how it felt. And this is only one of many experiences over my lifetime where I had multiple times been at the bottom of this cliff. In order to understand what rise is, I needed to fully embrace what it meant to be at the bottom of the valley. And being at the bottom of the valley meant that my perspective, my eyes, my seeing physical eyes could only see what was in my perimeter, in my surroundings. I could not see anything else other than that. It was impossible. There was no way. I want out. All of these kinds of things. And yet somehow, something, some way, not remembering that I am a spirit first and a human being, having a human experience, I was detached. I had come away from my spirit being first. I was caught up in the current present moment of my human experience. It was only when I started to realize that the fight in my mind around what felt impossible, that there was no ladder. I thought there was no tools around me to be able to pull myself up, or I was waiting and expecting something to fall out of the sky and pull me out. It was only until I was able to break the chain of thought in my mind and stop resisting, stop the internal fight. Once I relaxed and I was able to surrender, did I then see the opportunity and the way out. When I became vulnerable to releasing everything and realizing let go, let go, let go, it was only in that moment that I realized that the solution was there all along.
Yes. Mesepa. We believe she is back in Aotearoa, New Zealand, although she goes between there and Sydney, Australia, and all over the show. So, rising in resilience, thriving in purpose, re-emergence, all of those things encompass Indigenous Ways and all the presenters that get to be a part of it. And we are so grateful for our ASL interpreters as well. So our next clip is going to be Tiokasin Ghosthorse, who hails from the Cheyenne River, Lakota Nation. He is the founder, host, and executive producer of First Voices Radio. You can find him online. And he is a powerful man. He's traditional, he's contemporary, he's abstract, he's critical. He travels the world, and he goes to places where nobody else goes to support the people, no different than Diane Reyna, to provide a window through his lens, through his camera, through his stories, through his journalism, to bring back to his radio station and share with the people that want to know what's going on. Everybody enjoy a few minutes with Tiokasin.
I retained some memories of all of those times when I was young, you know, the tragedies as well as the times when, you know, we were understanding a whole new world entering. And the whole new world at that time was called Vietnam, and boarding schools and many places that were new to a lot of us younger kids, and people coming back in coffins and people going away, and you remember all of this, and you did your best to to understand what the onslaught was, because you could see the old way of life, so to speak, at that time, when very young, when all would gather every Sunday, and someone would ride up in buckboards, with horses, a team of horses. And I remember these things, and from that time, and how the old men would sit around and sing in Lakota, right? They would sing, and very, very silent in their delivery of their words. A very quiet language is Lakota. And they would be in rhythm with nature. They would be in rhythm with all that was around them. And of course, along came the cars and the TVs. And you can remember at times when the first TV came in, there was exactly 13 older people sitting there watching this rounded little tube, black and white. And I think that's when things changed. People start understanding life differently, that there was another life going on, and it was totally different than the one we were living. We were free to plant and grow from gardens at that time, but also there was hardly, if anything, they felt like they were sneaking. I felt like I saw them sneaking all the time, because at that time it was they understood that it was illegal to, of course, speak your language, sing the songs, and if someone caught you, then that was probably illegal. But I don't think it was as strict then as it was previously during my mother's day, when she went through boarding school, and all of those stories that came out of boarding school are some tragic ones. And I don't mean to sound like this is a bad thing, but a negative thing, because you can understand that the strength that it took for all of our people, all Indigenous, all Native peoples, even across the world, as I understand, that we have something that's closer to the earth, the language, the quantum physics within our language. So it's within our language that strength lies, because it was the patriarchal system that came after the patriarchy, the males, and left the females to carry on the culture. And that's what it was, because that patriarchy thought that our females were weak, because that's how they viewed the matriarchy and patriarchy. And they left alone the matrilineal of us all. So I think that's how we got to this far. And we had to survive, of course, but then there's the thriving with what you've been through, the tragedy that we all went through of understanding a foreign language that we speak now, this language called English. And it is a foreign language to me. Sometimes the concepts are often, if you didn't grow up with that, it's difficult to somehow take it in when it's just not about you. So what I'm saying, it's very narcissistic in its nature, because it's based on Latin, as we all know. 65% of this language is Latin, and that's having to do domination and destruction and war, and the attrition and the conquering and the devastation. And so we learned how to talk this language of war, and gotten very binary about it.
That's our brother Tiokasin, Lakota brother. We met him in New York City and many years ago, and he's an awesome man, carrying an awesome message. Our next powerhouse is, I love to say this, everybody, this is music to my ears, because she was my first mentor when I got into the world of signing, and she was actually my boss at New Mexico School for the Deaf. I like to say this, Dr. Carla Garcia. Dr. Carla Garcia-Fernández. And since she's been married, she's added Fernandez to her last name. So Carla talks about the importance of language and childhood, being an only child or a sibling in her with a hearing family. So let's enjoy Carla for just a couple of minutes.
So in my home, I had some family members that were fluent in American Sign Language, others that knew some basic signs, and of course their fluency ranged, right? So everyone in between. My mom signed pretty well. My father used a combination of gestures and signs that we came up with at home. But my family did not understand the importance of using sign language to communicate all the time. The only time that they would sign is if they were talking to me personally or talking to my brother. I have a brother that's older than I am who is also deaf. That was the only time they signed. And when I think about how I developed my identity as a person, I recognize that I developed identity later in life than I otherwise would have. There's a lot of research that shows the critical importance of identity development. And it's as critically important for deaf children to have access and communication to families so that they can take in that culture, those values, and develop their identity as well. For deaf children with parents that hear and do not sign, that do not therefore have communication access, many of them end up with mental health diagnoses such as depression or dysthymia. There's a number of ailments that research has proven that these children end up with.
Oh, wow. That's Carla. I know I got to get more creative with my responses to all of our speakers because I say that too many times. Wow. But that's all I can say is amazing, powerful. So the importance of language in childhood. We're going to move on to our Aunty Jo Willmot, who hails from Australia, and she has been around the Northern Territory, and currently she lives in Adelaide, and she comes from the Woka Aborigines. And I asked her a question. I said, is there a solution from the atrocities from colonization? If so, what are the remedies? And this is a healing elder, Auntie. They go with Auntie in Australia. So here's Aunty Jo.
We need to look within ourselves. We need to sit on Mother Earth. We need to start noticing all our brothers and sisters, the waterways, what's flying in the skies, what's creeping along the earth, what's walking on top of the earth, what's emanating from the earth to give us all life. We need to notice that humans are damaging one another. We need to look at ourselves and what the spirit of all of that exists is a part of who we are. And we have to acknowledge that part and see that we have to walk gently on the earth, but walk with healing, with love, with harmony, with honor, with integrity, with dignity. We need to take our children. We need to see them as our blessings. And they're the gift for the future that we need to hold and nurture into their becoming. I'm at the moment in the process, as I said, I've got to race off to another meeting, of sitting down with non-Aboriginal academics to talk about that juxtaposition, as you say, between traditional First Nations healing and Western methodologies, and how we need to work with that, given all of the confusion and the conflicts around what has happened historically, globally, not just for us as First Nations people, but all those people who did all of the colonisation, all of the colonialism, all of the invasions, all the despair, all the dismantling of everything that came from the source, from the ancient. We need to work together to develop and put our hearts and souls into changing our narrative, changing our practice and accessing within the deep sources and abyss of the source, the ancient university, and all of our relations and our ancestors to be able to give that back. So our healing, and I've been involved in this with the Stolen Generations for the last 4 or 5 years. We've had our traditional healers who come from the desert, who sit with the men and women who have been damaged by the process of colonialism, but also being stolen and being rejected and disjointed and confused and just broken in respect to what's happened to them, holding them in a culturally safe space to be able to see that they are of value. If you don't acknowledge the spirit and its value, you're not acknowledging the whole. So we take people on a camp and we do all of this taking care of, nurturing, supporting, nourishing, and then we have the healers sitting side by side with the Western trained psychologists, psychoanalysts, counsellors, mediators, etc., to work in harmony and unison to heal the spirit and the soul of the individual, as well as all of the people, that they can recognise and see when they leave, they come out just a little bit connected back to who they really should be.
Beautiful. Oof. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Auntie Jo, for those powerful words and that medicine. And, you know, thank you everyone for joining us. This is our first time back after having a hiatus. This was a very difficult decision to make of when coming back, who could we showcase out of the 135 elders, deaf and hard of hearing, Two-Spirit, Indigenous, Native American, spiritual advisors, artists, musicians. So what we've done tonight is just done a little smorgasbord of the incredible 18 months that you've supported us with. And if this is your first time, please check out our website, IndigenousWays.org. In the video library, there you'll see these amazing people that you had a little taste of. You can watch all their archives, they're there. But as Auntie Jo said, and I love the question that Tash posed, which is there a solution? And she says, yes, it's our healing. And as you would have seen from the artists and presenters, their own personal stories, or through their arts, through their creativity, of how to do that as a collective. And how did we come here? You know, Indigenous Ways, Tash, myself, our wonderful board that we have, we received about 11 grants because we co-create festivals and events in remote areas. And last year when we received those grants, we couldn't do that. So on the 1st of April last year, we wanted to keep all our communities connected. And so what did we do? We did the virtual events. We had 2 going out per week. One was the concert series supporting all our musicians and artists, and the other was the Wisdom Circle. So this was just a small little snippet of these amazing people that have really blessed us with their medicine, with their walk in life, with their wisdoms to bestow to us in this extraordinary time that we're in. And one of the things that I'm really honored and what I get to talk about next, we had a friend at the end of May that said to Tash, hey, I've got some friends who want to donate to the Navajo Nation. Do you know of any nonprofit organizations that they can donate to? And so this was in 2020 last year.
And Tash says, well, you know, I don't know. Oh, actually, you could donate to us because Tasha's family, her sister's on, Miss Michelle, her mother is on also at the moment in the Zoom. Kathy, thank you so much. They live in Black Mountain, a very remote area on the Navajo Nation. Usually one of the communities, because they're so remote, they get left out. And so what we started doing, and thanks to you on this platform, we did 15 runs to Black Mountain, and also starting in January this year, we did 5 runs to the deaf and hard of hearing in the Four Corners. But thanks to you, that was all possible, and thanks to this platform. And we were able to raise, thanks to all of you, $165,000 in-kind and in-kind and individual donations. We had people flying stuff to our place. We had every month volunteers coming in, packing in foods boxes. But what we wanted to share now was a message, particularly from Black Mountain. Is there anything you want to say, Tash, before we share this particular video of gratitude from all your mob?
Love you all. Thank you very much. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you. Keep coming back. Thank you.
So when we went on sabbatical, one of our journeys that we went on was in July, and it was taking a trailer and also a water tote, a 300-gallon water tote, up to Oak Ridge community because they don't have any running water. But this is the message that they want to tell you.
Water is life.
Yes.
How does it feel to have a water tote up here?
It takes a little time, but we got it. We made it.
We're all the Twittichini clan up here and born for the same clan also, Tachi. So we're all brothers and sisters. And I just want to thank both of you very much for coming up again.
Oh, thank
the
you.
last time you were here, you were very willing to help, and you're still coming up, and that's very, very thoughtful. I really appreciate it for our people right here. And Ado Koe Nosini Twittichi Nosini Hatasiagi. Njona Koshiyat Ehote no Sedo Lesto Bata Hosiado. Ado Bahochin Shishide Hatnejo Ad Aye Oak Ridge Isne a cook at Con Toda Dabit Niti Hatne Nal Loshita Tobata Denaco. A job is hard to Hasiado, Njonocho. I'm very grateful to each one of you, Miss Tosh, and your friends that from Santa Fe. And they've been helping to help us get water. Even that is a lot. It'll last a long time, that one barrel. Thank you so much, especially at this time when when the water's so scarce. Water is life.
Yes, indeed. Water is life. And thank you, everyone, for being for your incredible support. Because without any of you, none of this would have happened. As being on this virtual event, these are relief runs that we did to the Navajo Nation. Thank you to each and every one of you. You know, so many things have happened through this platform. From the onset of April 2020, we had ASL interpreting services. So working out that, we're grateful for all our amazing interpreters making access available to all. What's been important for us is having the split screen rather than our clientele looking at little tiny interpreters. And this whole thing has been through our co-creating this platform together, and we're grateful for that. What we can tell you at this moment, we've had 85,000 views from all our social media. On our archived videos on our website, we've had over 25,000 views. And, through this, we were also able to fundraise for one of our brothers, Bill Miller, a really predominant musician in Native American world, and do a fundraiser for him with several Native musicians, which then led us to May this year having the Indigenous Healing Festival, collaborating with the Institute of American Indian Arts, the Performing Arts with Dr. Sheila Rocha, the Santa Fe Indian School, and also Tewa Women United, having a full sold out on the Saturday and this incredible weekend of festivities. This has all been possible because of you. And, I just want to go to this before we start bringing everyone in. If you're on our social media pages, please like or subscribe to our pages. It's really important. All of these platforms has been because of your kind donation. So you'll see over here, we've got PayPal. We've also got Venmo. You can take the QRL code. We've also got at our website, IndigenousWays.org, a donate, where you can donate if you want to invest in what we're doing. There's also, you can do a one-off or a monthly, whether that be $5 a month. It just comes out with you knowing. Or if you're a bit like myself and not into the electronics and you want to do snail mail, you can write a check to Indigenous Ways. It is our P.O. Box 4073, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87502. So that's what we wanted to share with you. We cannot thank you enough for your phenomenal support, because without you, none of this would have been possible. And what you wanted when we were doing these was the opportunity to come in, because when we started this, what was important for us was how do we connect all our communities. And so if you are in Zoom, and now remember this is getting zapped out live, but if you feel okay, feel free to turn on your camera or your camera if you want to come in live. If you're on any of our social media pages, please send us a message or a comment that we can share. We've got a few minutes left before the top of the hour, but we're here, and we're just going to invite some people in. And Tash, is there anything that you want to say while I'm doing that?
We just want to see you if you want to say hi on the screen. I know we're at the top of the hour, so we're going to call it a night pretty quickly here, and look forward to seeing you all back here next month, third Wednesday of every month. So if you want to put that in your calendar and share it, we're going to be having a wonderful presenter from here in Santa Fe, New Mexico next month. So this will be one of our events. And our sister Sarah Youngbear is here. Hey Sarah, how's it going?
This is Sarah. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It's good to see you both, Elena and Tosh, again. And it's great to be here and watch people share their stories. I'm really glad that you bring together the deaf, the Indigenous, and the hard of hearing component. And you provide access via American Sign Language interpreters. That is very pleasing to see. Not only that, it's an opportunity to engage with community that isn't available to others throughout the country. I've noticed that you have started providing access like that, and it's becoming increasingly more and more available. So I really appreciate that from you.
Woo! Yes. Thank you.
Sarah, just before we go to others and share some, do you want to tell us what you have been up to?
Sarah says yes. Thank you. I am thrilled. I do have news to share with you. Just last Monday, I was invited to the White House. They are having a roundtable for discussions about Native Americans with disabilities. And so they're looking to enhancing services and, of course, uplifting the community. And I was invited to be a part of that. And I was also re-invited to return on Monday, this coming up Monday. So I'm really looking forward to being a part of that roundtable discussion again.
Rock on, Sarah. We're so proud of you. Yes. Thank you very much. All right. Anybody would like to say anything?
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Sarah. While people are contemplating, I just want to go to our social media. Hilda Ritchie from Wisconsin says, thank you. Great to see you, Hilda. And also Jennifer Folan says, thank you for your amazing work. Thank you, Jennifer. And Michelle Mormon, welcome back from Marquette, Michigan. Isn't that the UP? The UP on Black Rocks Peninsula. It is the UP. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're glad you're here. Going to the floor.
Hi. Hey, all right. I just want to say hi and show you my COVID hairdo.
All right. Stunning. Love it.
Awesome.
It is so wonderful.
I can almost do a braid. Love you so much.
So
Miss
great.
you. Great to see you.
You.
Wonderful to see your face.
Thank you. Amber, have you got any words of wisdom? And then after Amber, I'm going to go to Donna.
I just love you all. Thank you so much.
We love you, Amber. Great to see you. Thank you. Donna, great to see you. How are those chooks? And that's translated to chickens.
Yeah, we have 8, and we're starting to get 8 eggs a day, which is very exciting.
Wow.
So anybody in Columbus, Ohio needs eggs, call me. It's just wonderful to see you two again. I think we all needed a break from so much Zooming, but I started to miss you and had to start watching canned stuff, which was fine. But live is so much better. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. Great to see you, Donna. And we're just going to go to some messages in Zoom from Christine.
Christine says, thank you. You are amazing women. You are creating loving community and healing many people's hearts. And our beautiful, gorgeous, amazing sister that reminds me of a movie star, Abby. She says, very powerful show tonight to compare viewpoints from each other's wise speaker. And Michelle, to everyone, so exciting. Sarah, for you. And let's go to our beautiful sister Rachel Pablo.
Hello, everyone. It was really nice to see the show. I came on a little late, but of course, it was beautifully curated, very well spoken. I'm really impressed, Tosh. I'm just kidding. It was phenomenal, and it was good medicine. I needed this after the exhausting day, and I loved all the presenters. There's so many more in the archives, of course, and thank you.
Oh, good to see you, beautiful sister.
Good to see you, and we got a walk and a lunch on the horizon, sister. All right, let's go to our beautiful sister from New York City, Christina Bueno. CB? Is that it? CB?
Okay, I didn't realize that you were talking to me. I was so confused looking at the multiple pictures here. I'm so happy to be back, and it's so good to see and hear the fascinating stories that have been shared this evening. As I was watching each presenter, I was like, I remember that one. So nice to be back. So thank you so much. And as usual, you have wonderful interpreters providing access to American Sign Language. So yes, it was great to hear the stories about language barriers and communication. And I really appreciate it again that you guys provide interpreters so that the access is equivalent and so that everybody can enjoy the events and can have a wonderful time listening and hearing and seeing the messages.
We love you, Christina. Welcome back to Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle. All right, we're going to do one more tonight. Our beautiful brother, Carlin Cruz, my interpreter buddy. Hey, Carlin, what's up?
Wisdom. Come on. It's just absolutely amazing. And to know that we have these others all over the world, like Aunty Joe. guys for inviting the board.
Thank you,
Beautiful.
Colin. We can't hear you. It's a very bad reception, but you know what? I want to call you on the phone after this because I want to talk to you.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Carlin. We want to thank everyone for your sacred time and blessing us back into the Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle. Please put this on your calendar, the third Wednesday of each month. So next month, we're going to be having the superintendent from the Santa Fe Indian School who's going to be blessing us in the Wisdom Circle. So if you come here next week, it's just going to be you, but please be sure to put the third Wednesday is when we're going to be coming on. We're also going to turn this into a podcast series. So we'll play with this and do a lot of things. But before we sign out, please let's give it up for our beautiful interpreters, Sandra and also Chris Esiano, making this all possible. All our amazing presenters and the incredible medicines. And if you want more, you can go to our website, IndigenousWays.org. Please go to the video archives. They're all there, and more incredible presenters. And also, we cannot say this enough, but thank you for your time, your essence, your energy, and blessing us this evening, coming in for the first time back after our wonderful hiatus. But again, this has been a community, collective thing, doing it all together. And I'm going to give it to Tash, who's got the last words for us.
We love you all. Thank you for being with us tonight. And let's give it up for everybody on planet Earth, all the five-fingered ones. We all have a right to live. We all have a right to breathe. And we all have a right to communicate. And we all have a right to have access. So let's all fight for that. Let's walk for that. Let's pray for that. And let's be into action for that. All of us, let's raise the bar so those people can get it, right? Love you guys. Have a good one. Okay?
Love you all, and we'll look forward to seeing you October 20th, that third Wednesday of the month. Be well. If you want to sign up to our newsletters and find out more, please do. Good night, sweet dreams, or good morning wherever you may be.
Dinner time. Bye.